Good morning, everybody. For this August 23rd, we are fortunate to have both Reverends Bonnie and Andy Anderson, who just gave a talk entitled Be Like Water. So I believe Connie had something to say first, so she will get us started.
First of all, I want to say something to Andy about all the music I love, but the first one, Feel All Right. So I want to suggest to him that when this pandemic is not over, but controlled, I want him to lead a chorus of many of us singing Feel All Right. I want to stand by the river and sing Feel All Right.
You got it.
Okay, is that
I can
a
do
promise?
that. I can do that.
Yeah.
I can do that.
Those were.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna reiterate that those were amazing performances from you, Andy. That was like chills, you know.
Oh,
just
thank
so
you.
great. Yeah. Sorry, Connie.
After the meditation, that music that you played was just like water running through me. That was beautiful.
Wow.
Okay, Bonnie, I want to bring up the question about the part of the service where you were talking about our solutions already exist, and anyhow, that part of your service. And what I thought about when you were talking, though, is I thought about people like that live in a small village in Guatemala, and they're just barely eking out enough to eat, or people on the streets of India. And so I guess what I was thinking about that is, the question is, can we all truly write a new story for ourselves? Or is it just us? Is it just the privileged that can write a new story for themselves? That's my question.
That's a very excellent question, and requires some deep thought. And I encourage anyone who wants to comment on that. But part of what I see is when we all wake up together, we have more ideas, creative ideas on how everyone can be lifted up, how everyone can have water and food. But it's a really good question, because we're talking from a place of privilege, saying that the solution is here. Well, the guy that teaches that, David Alt, he went to Cambodia and started a school for children called Kaleidoscope, that's grown and grown. So in his awakening, he has been able to affect change in a third world country. So perhaps it's just that, it's that global awakening, that global of knowing, that of not going into despair, that will wake us up. But I'd appreciate anyone else having something to say about that.
Well, I would ask, if a people are not doing well, is it, I try to word this correctly, is it because all the pieces of the pie have been taken from them, or is it some other reason? Right? It's like, we can talk about being in a position of privilege here in the United States. And certainly that's true. We are probably the 1% of the world when you think about it, right? Now, is that the result of taking from the rest of the world, or is that the result of innovation? Oh, that was a question for Bonnie, but I guess Julianne. Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. Julianne had her hand up, so let's go to her.
I'm just going to feed the fire more by saying, if you're in the middle of a difficult situation, you simply may not have the resources to get out. Look at 1 million unemployed or however many
Oh.
unemployed
Yeah.
right now.
20 million. Yeah.
20 million. Where is it exactly they're going to go to get jobs when the jobs are disappearing faster than people can apply?
Yeah.
And that is going to take outside intervention. And that is really a factor of some sort of privilege.
Okay.
Well, and Connie, you have witnessed firsthand in your trips to, is it Guatemala that you go to?
Mhm.
Yeah. And I can see where you come from with that. And it's you know, I guess it's, you know, yeah, it's a challenging question. It is. And the only thing that I can say is that as we wake up together and have faith and have, you know, and have the belief that that things can get better. Because if you're sitting around, you know, in despair, it's difficult to know that there's hope.
Yeah.
You have anything to say about that?
Yeah.
No,
Let's hop over to JC and Laleen. Both have something to say.
Go ahead, you guys are on the first. I was just thinking about being a child. I mean, I kind of moved in out of India, but I was thinking about the year after my sister died, and my brother and I, and we were talking, and my mother, we were living in a government housing project of the poorest families at the time on welfare. And we made a plan and kind of an agreement with each other. We saw around us kids our age who were dropping out of school, out of high school, and I had heard friends who were going to quit when they were 14, you know, and I mean, I'm sitting there, I'm 12 years old. And so my brother had just turned 14, and he said, okay, he said, I'm going to get a job at 14, and you know, Laleen, will you get a job when you turn 14? And I said, yes. I said, I'll do anything except scrub toilets. And that was my bottom line. And so he got a job right away selling shoes in a shoe department store. And then 2 years later, when I turned 14, I got a job in the dish room of a hospital, you know, racking hot dishes that just came out of the sterilizer and stacking them, and eventually moved on to being a tray girl where I could set up trays and deliver trays. And neither one of us were ever without a job after that. And as soon as I got my job, we moved across town to a different high school and got, you know, a small little 2-bedroom apartment. 1 bedroom for my brother and the other for my mother and I. And it was like luxury, but it was a family thing. I mean, we started out in a 1-bedroom apartment with 3 kids and my mom sleeping in the living room, ended up, you know, in housing projects, and then moved into this 2-bedroom apartment in a very different school district. So I think it's a combination, you know, of a lot of things. I think it's a combination of intelligence, having lived in a project with the 500 poorest families. I think it's a combination of values, you know, what we got from our parents, a lot about what we read, a lot about what we wanted in our lives. I mean, my brother at 14 discovered opera and spent his life in that. So I think there are so many things that come together that can lift people up. And I also agree that the culture in which you live, the country in which you live, the huge numbers of people who surround you and are your community are a huge factor. I mean, not everybody everywhere in the world, you know, could sit down, have a family meeting and make those kinds of decisions. I mean, my mom never finished high school. So for all of us, it was a really big deal, first high school and then college and then for me, graduate school and professions. And we never forgot, you know, that was our choices. And I always would look back on being the only kid out of those projects that, I'm sorry, there were two of us that went to community college, and the only one who went beyond community college. So I just think there's so many different factors involved, even in this country.
And what Lillian said is, it is a beautiful setup for what I intended to say. And while I was listening, Bonnie, and following your words, I got the idea that if I were to just deepen and think about what living today, now, means for me, I got the feeling that I told myself, living with a pandemic, with things that are different, is not empty. There's plenty in here that I can now bring forward. And it's essential to do that because I was too busy being the other, the other life, that I didn't stop to think. And so my concept is, when Julianne said, can't happen without outside innovation, I said, and if you recognize that, that's one thing that a lot of people aren't thinking about now, that there might be a different way, and maybe back behind all of my old expectations of what will happen, there is an energy of mine that I've never used. There's an attitude of mine that I gave up because it wasn't popular. And my cliche is, yes, my expectation of my family relative to love when I was 4 years old was rejected. And pretty soon I didn't look to them to show me what love looked like. Okay, getting over that would be good, because how can I be the hands of love, which was on something you put up, Michael, that was wonderful.
Oh.
How can I be the hands of love if I feel that my attitude about love will be rejected?
Mm-hmm.
So yes, that's just me alone with myself. And then where did the man digging the ditch to bring the water to his crop? Was that in Andy's song?
No, that was
No.
a quote by an Indian sage, yeah.
Okay. Well, yes, every single one of us is the field that exists. And if we start digging a ditch, we're going to get rid of lots of things that have just stood in the way of us having a different thought. And if we're to be water and we want to run in a different ditch, we got to dig the ditch, which means get rid of the shit. So anyway, thank you for those thoughts. I'm giving another talk later in October on play, and you have just, I was just writing so fast, things that you were saying that was great, and how that's going to come up again on the 18th of October.
Well, and too, Lillian, and Daisy, what you're saying too is, as we each, as the vibration on the planet rises, and solutions become more evident, maybe not to the, well, it's hard to say. I can't say how it happens, but as we raise the vibration collectively, as we work to collectively to raise the vibration of the planet, things shift and begin to shift and change.
Could you explain that, raising vibration? It's something that comes up so often with you and Donna and a few other people who visit the church. And I guess I can speak for everybody that, well, everybody who doesn't understand like me. What does that mean?
I think it involves clearing out. Well, for one thing, it's a feeling tonality. It's like, after listening to one of Andy's songs and you get chills or you feel lifted up.
Mhm.
It's coming from the place of hopefulness,
Okay.
where we begin to, and Donna could probably describe the scientific part of it more, but there are measurements of the frequency of the planet that say that, that the whole frequency is rising, and music definitely has a frequency. And there's many ways to raise that vibration through, letting go of old beliefs that have held us down and locked us in, and lifting up that way, and having hope, and doing that inner work that allows us to see the truth that's here among us, the truth.
So is it like a metaphorical vibration? Like, so let me I'll give you a like an example. So wait. So
Okay, go ahead.
A above middle C on the piano vibrates at 440 vibrations per second, right? So A at an octave plus on the piano vibrates at 880 vibrations per second.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
is the A an octave higher than middle C, a superior A because its vibration is higher? Is that a
Well,
better A?
No, it's not a better A, but you got half the leg of the rabbit. So one way to look at it is everything in the universe is energy.
Okay.
Everything operates on energy, whether or not you believe it or not, it does. It does. So let me give you an example. When you're in your car and your radio is on 87.9, and so you want to listen to 106.1,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
So you look at the radio and you say change, and the radio does not change, right? You get mad at the radio because the radio did not change to 106.1,
Okay.
right?
I know that
And
feeling.
so you have to actually get in there and change the dial. You got to move your hand, and you got to go in there and change the dial. So what I'm saying is that there's an energy that's within you that already knows what to do and how to do it, but it cannot go beyond your level of understanding and expectation.
Okay. So
Beyond that, you cannot go.
So-
So what I'm saying is that the vibration, when they're talking about my vibration, your vibration is your understanding of all that you are up to this present moment, right? That's and you're vibrating at that level. That could, no matter if it's 80.89.6 or whatever that vibration level is, you're vibrating at that level, and that's your total level of understanding at this moment. Now, if you want more, if you want to vibrate at more love, you want to vibrate more understanding, you want to vibrate more joy. I want to create better music. You got to turn the dial. If that makes sense, right?
okay. So it's more like a broadcast frequency.
You're broadcasting. You're
Gotcha.
broadcasting 24/7. You're broadcasting. Yes,
Okay.
that's it.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. I really appreciate that.
And like fear, you can imagine the difference in the vibration or the frequency of fear rather than creativity or something, and if you hit a tuning fork and it's on a C, and you go up to the piano, and the chords will vibrate they'll vibrate in alliance with that one vibration. They will be drawn to that, and you'll hear that C. So it's like the more people that vibrate come out of a vibration of fear into one of solution or hope or love, let's say peace, the more it catches.
Mhm. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you for that. I appreciate that explanation. Glennis wanted to interject.
Well, first of all, I think that the tuning fork analogy is very apt. actually. And so when you think of, I think of it, and I could be wrong, and Bonnie and Annie can help me out here, but I think that the higher that you can move your vibration, the more in tune you are with empathic, with intuitive, with all of that stuff. And I think that that's what's happening to the world in general, but it is a hard move. And that's why we're into this chaos right now. I also wanted to ask Bonnie, well, I can let you respond to that if you want to, but in speaking in terms of water, I mean, you can see that happening in the waves of water. You can see that happening in the ripples that expand out, and of course the just the vibrations and the undulations and all of that. But see, when you come into water, and this was a wonderful and apt explanation of being in the flow to me, is when your vibration level is getting higher because you're doing something that you love, and therefore all of a sudden it's hours later. And so I think that there's a lot to explore in that. And I wanted to ask Bonnie and Andy if you had seen the work from Masaru Emoto, who had studied the crystals and what happens to water crystals in different environments.
Yeah, that's wonderful research that he's done.
Yeah.
And the change, the beautiful, when you meditate on love or think of love, the crystals are so incredibly beautiful. And when you meditate on hate, they become very disjointed and chaotic.
Disrupted and everything. And so I think that is what's going on in your body, in all of the other things around you. It's all a flow, and it's all connected.
I agree. And we're like 60% water. Our bodies are made of water. So
yeah.
So Julianne wrote into the chat. Julianne, do you feel like expounding on that? I know Laleen wanted to talk.
I would just recommend getting David Hawkins' books. He passed away about, I don't know, 10 years ago, but very interesting. He was considered a crackpot, but he talked about the levels of consciousness. And he used reflexology to measure levels of consciousness. That's what was so controversial about the whole thing. But his actual levels chart the levels of the human levels of consciousness was really good. Jesus, Buddha, Krishna, they're at the 1,000 level, and most of humanity is at a 1 or 2. United States generally is about a 3. Personally, I would think the UUs might be 4s, just because of the compassionate nature of the congregation and so forth. There's also the Institute of Noetic Sciences, begun by Edgar Mitchell, who literally studies the frequencies of human intention. And they've set up equipment all over the world and sponsor meditations twice a day. And they are measuring the effect of these things. And it was begun as an observation. Princeton University had some of this equipment set up, and they noticed huge spikes 24 hours before the 9/11 attacks. And they wondered, what is this? And it was simply yes. Yeah. There we go. That's the outfit, and they've got great seminars and reading material. So
cool. Okay.
And David Hawkins also, I don't remember the exact numbers, but he did research about the power of the positive rather than the negative. And the positive was much power. A positive thought had much, much more power than a negative one.
Yeah.
Which gives
Well,
you hope.
You know, and actually that's something that's easily replicated. If you're into weightlifting, the thing that everybody knows is that if you don't think you can do it, you can't do it. You know, you've got to believe that you can lift it in order to lift. So yeah, so okay, I'll definitely buy into that. Laleen, you had something to say.
Yeah, I was just going to bring it a little more closer to home, because it's so easy to experience and feel right now. And that's just to look at the psychological aspects. I mean, all of us, I'm sure, sometime or another have felt depression. And when one is depressed, other people around you often will recognize immediately and ask you about X, Y, or Z, hoping that maybe, they can be helpful. And I think what we're experiencing right now, certainly within this country, is really massive depression. And certainly within white privilege, a tremendous amount of massive depression. I mean, we have people who have never, ever been unemployed, who are unemployed. And we have people who are in debt, who never thought of themselves as in debt. And we have people in fear who don't think of themselves often as being in fear. And I just saw Betsy, and it's so exciting to see her. So I want to stop and say, hello, Betsy. So just to finish that thought, you can feel it when you go into any kind of a group, even at safe distancing. We can feel it in our town, and certainly if we lived in a larger city, it would be palatable. And if each of us, find a way to say this, as we pull out of the incredible economic slump we're in, and as the impact of what coronavirus has done to our fear levels, and as the anger that has resulted from being afraid and having lifestyles change and money problems and all the rest of that, as that shifts, we're going to feel our vibrations, our entire communities, our towns and our cities start to shift. The significance for me that I am always interested in goes back to what we've talked about before about crisis intervention theory and chaos. And does one come out of chaos and crisis intervention functioning at a higher level, higher frequency from having learned while in the experience, or do they come back to where they were before, or do they come out at a lower level? So that will be something to watch.
Yeah, and I think that's probably a pretty individual thing. Sometimes we come out of a crisis with a greater knowledge and an awakening, and sometimes not. So yeah, but that's a very interesting idea.
Yeah, the fear factor is palpable, I think, in today's society. It's a really poignant observation. Betsy, is it okay if we call on you? Is that all right? Since so right now you're muted, so I just asked you to unmute.
Thank you.
There you go. There you go. It's so good to see you.
Good to see you. Good to see all of you.
Were you able to see the surface?
No, I couldn't figure out how to do it.
Okay. Okay.
And I just now, I called Lois and she said, well, I went to my spam or something or other and found you.
Oh, because it was a group email,
I thought I was
probably.
going to get a new invitation or something to this.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I will send you a fresh link to the YouTube, so you can see it. So maybe you could riff for a second. What would you say it means to you to be like water? To be like water? Yes.
To be fluid.
Yeah.
Fluid.
To To seek the lowest common denominator, no thanks. But to flow.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, well, we're all so happy you're here. So
Yeah, it's good
thanks.
to see everybody.
Yeah, JC had her hand up, so let me go to you.
Just with what was being explained about the vibration and all,
Mhm.
my inner wonder while listening to that was then if how we behave and act and think produces a vibration, then it becomes incredibly important for each of us to understand we're part of the goodness. My thoughts, if I'm having low thoughts, then somebody else has got to have really high thoughts just to wipe out the effect of my low thoughts. So none of this, I'm not enough or I'm too small to make a difference, none of that matters anymore. The point is, I've got this ions thing twice a day. I could probably do twice a day. I could be part of the rise, not the part of the cynical, what good will it do, human nature thing. So maybe we're learning that human nature is based on energy, not on money or whatever we do it. So anyway, that's just was my inner thought. Oh, well, that's an answer to I'm not important enough to matter.
Well, and it reminds me of Lynn McTaggart's work with intention, you know, I'm in a Power of 8 group with Donna and some other people. And what we do is we set our intentions for healing for people who are requesting healings, but you're looking at the possibilities and not being in the despair. You know, someone can be ill and feel hopeless. And when they put forth a desire for wholeness and wellness, and there are other people holding that desire for them, it changes your focus from looking at the problem to intending for the solution.
Yeah, I think it also, you know, it reinforces the idea of charity begins at home kind of idea. You know, Jordan Peterson said, make sure that your house is in perfect order before you change the world. You know, that, you know, in that meditation, in that self-care, you know, that you will be a more effective agent of change to the world if you care for yourself.
So true.
Yeah. Well, let's see. I am not above calling on people. Kim, you haven't spoken yet. Do you feel like interjecting? You don't have to.
Well, in the sermon, there were several things that you were saying about what the lady that spoke at the Democratic place. I forget her name.
Or Michelle Obama, maybe?
She said yeah, her.
Okay.
She said that to walk, hold on, let me read it. Walk in each other's shoes, which I thought was kind of interesting. I think we do need to do more of that because, you know, I have a different opinion compared to what you guys believe in. But yet when I want to voice my opinion, I get knocked down. You treat me like I'm worthless because people do treat me like I'm worthless because I have a different opinion than you. Because I happen to believe that Trump is doing a good job at various things and you don't. And it just seems like you either hate Trump so much that if someone has an opinion for them that it's just, you just think I'm bad. So you're not walking in my shoes and seeing how I'm feeling. And the other thing is we have to find a way to work with each other. And I don't think that that's happening because because the Democrats hate Trump. That's all they talk about. When I watch stuff on Democrats, That's all they said was how much they hated him. And that's not going to get anything done. We have to work together regardless of our differences. We can't just keep hating each other for it. So that's what I would got out of it. But yes, that's true, but you can't just keep hating somebody and then everyone else agrees with them to talk to you about it, because it's just not going to work. I think I said it okay.
Okay. Well, no, there is. Wow, that is a powder keg. So, Bonnie, do you want to?
Well, and Kim, you know, thank you for sharing that. And I think that part of the work that we do has to be being curious about people who feel different than we do, other than instead of judging them. And you know, like nonviolent communication says to listen without judgment, you know, and that's part of putting ourselves in each other's shoes. So you're really calling us to the table here. You know, if we're going to put ourselves in each other's shoes, it means that people who think different, you know, doing that with people who think very differently than we do, instead of judging, being open and to look at things in a new way. So I thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, beautiful. Okay, great. So we got a few. JC, is it okay if I go to Glennis first? Is that all right? Yeah. Okay. All right. Go ahead, Glennis.
I understand what you're saying, Kim, and I have been aware that, you know, maybe each side is a little harsh on the other. What we are starting to do, or at least what I'm seeing in my circle of friends, because I have a lot of friends who don't think the same way I do. I actually have been working very hard on not only listening to them, but seeing where they're coming from. I might not still probably won't agree, but I don't vilify or hate anyone, especially someone who just happens to think differently from me. And so I think that is something that it's not right now our natural way of being, but I think it is something that we all have to aspire to. And because that hatred and that vilification of people who think differently is what is tearing us all apart. And so it's incumbent upon us to start with the flow, start with the higher way of thinking of these issues and these ideas, because and Michelle said it a long time ago. When they go low, if you stay at that low, that's a low vibration when they're doing low, saying low things to you. And that's true coming the other way. So when they go low or we go low, we all need to stay high and keep our vibration higher.
But do you think there was an acknowledgement that both sides are capable of going low in that statement? Oh, you think, okay. See, I didn't get that from her statement. To me, that statement translated to, they are the low ones, we are the high ones.
No.
Okay.
I think that might be a valid perception, whether it's actually really what's going on with all of us.
Okay.
So I do acknowledge that.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay, cool. You were referenced specifically in both of those, Kim. Do you want to respond to any of that?
Yeah, I just think when you're hating the president so much, nothing is going to get done. And that's just what I hear from the left, is how much president, he just does anything right, nothing's wrong. I just hate how he does this. I hate. I'm thinking, well, I don't think the Democrats are doing better, but I don't go around hating them. I just don't think they're doing very good. You know, there's a difference between disagreeing or hating somebody. And I think when someone says an opinion and you really belittle them, you're stepping on one's First Amendment of having their own opinion. And the Democrats are trying to step on people's First Amendments and other amendments as well. And that's why I become in in office that they will take away all of our amendments, all of our rights as United States citizens. They're going to give it to rights to everybody who are not citizens instead of us. You know, I don't know if I said it right.
No, that's okay. That's okay. You know, if I can make one suggestion, in order to make sure that we're bypassing any kind of dogmatism, maybe we could stay away from specific political groups. It's just a thought. But Laleen, or I'm sorry, JC, you had something to say. And Bonnie and Andy, so, you know, you're our guests of honor. So if something strikes you and you want to chime in, you're unmuted perpetually. So please dive in. Okay, go ahead, JC.
Kim, I was almost breathless as you spoke that you had such incredible courage to let us know how it feels to you when you sit with us weekly and listen to all of our stuff without reacting. And that's, okay, paragraph 1. Paragraph 2, I learned early on in my life that silence is safety, which means what I don't talk about, I don't get chewed on for.
Yeah.
And as I got old enough to realize I'm older than almost everybody now, so they don't get to chew on me. I can say whatever the hell I think. And that makes a big difference. So what I'm saying is, that took courage, girl.
Yeah.
You're welcome in any discussion I'm in, but because I know you're willing to speak how you feel and what you think, and I would do nonviolent communication session with you anytime.
Great. So Julianne, again, you know, I don't know if do you want to speak? You write into the comment, and but I don't know if you want those to be points of discussion. I guess maybe you could let us know.
And Connie has her hand raised too.
Okay.
Okay. The conversation could go that way. There may be other points that are more pertinent. I did scribble down a thought here. To be like water is to be adaptable to changes without compromising its structure.
Ah, okay.
And that's the crux of the.
Okay. Okay. Well, thank you for
me.
that. Yeah. Yeah. So, you know, anybody who wants to talk in the chat, you know, certainly you're welcome to do that. I guess maybe if you don't want to voice it verbally, you could just note that in the chat. So I won't badger you. Connie, I just asked you to unmute.
Well, I'd like to go back to what Bonnie said in the meditation. And I think this applies to what we all need to do, Kim. And her words were, let your mind release what disturbs you. And I think we haven't really done that. We haven't gone to a quiet place, and these things that come out of our mouth that sound critical and sound hateful, what we need is exactly what Bonnie said, is to quiet ourselves, to go to our breath, and let our mind release what disturbs us. Thank you, Kim.
Yeah, well said. Yeah.
And I also agree that, Kim, you were very courageous to because you are in, you know, a different opinion than many people in the congregation. And it is courageous to speak. And it's good for us to remember that, you know, that love love knows no political party, that we all bless each other as a community, no matter what our thoughts are.
Yes.
You know, and then that even goes down from community to family.
Mhm.
You know, it's the same thing. You know, we have to bless everyone where they're at, and, you know, no matter whether or not you agree or you disagree, and you say, well, I will just agree to disagree. But at the end of the day, we have to remember we're all one people living on one planet, and we're either going to live together or we're going to destroy it together. So we're all at choice. So I think at the end of the day, we have to remember is that even though we might not agree with everything everyone some says, but look beyond what the words are and look at the essence of that person. That's what I try to do. I might not agree with the words, but I look at the essence of that person, because the essence of that person will tell you that everyone is looking for the same thing, love. Everything's looking for the same thing. It might not come out that way verbally, but at the end of the day, I think we're all looking for the same thing, love. You know, I'll tell you a short story. Is that, Kim, I just want to say thank you so much for sharing that, because my oldest son is a very ardent, very vocal and passionate Trump supporter. And oh Lord, let me tell you. So, you know, and I was like, you know, and in the past, some of the things that he actually said, I understand what he's saying. I understand where he's coming from, but I'm going, oh man, is this my son? You know, but you know, I have to remember is that he is entitled to his opinion. And at the end of the day, blood is thicker than the mud, you know. And so, you know, and so I'm gonna love him no matter what. You know, I might not agree with what he's saying, but at the end of the day, I look at his essence and not necessarily for what comes out of his mouth. Because what comes out of his mouth, yeah, that's his opinion and he's entitled to that. But I look beyond that and I see the essence of who he really is, you know. And that essence is that, hey, we're all spirit. At the end of the day, we're all spirit, we're all love, and we're someone said that we're joined at the hip. We're all bind together and we're joined at the hip. You know, you say, I'm joined to the hip to that person? Yeah, you are. Yeah. So thank you, Kim. I had to chuckle when you were saying that. I'm saying, oh man, that, you know, she brought it home.
Yeah, and one thing that I've noticed is that in the midst of this turmoil, there are a lot of people who are calling for separation on both sides. You know,
Yeah.
people who are saying that, well, you know, going so far as to say we just need to break up the states, we can't live together anymore, you know. And so your statement about that, you know, we are one people, we are one race, you know, if you will, you know, is very touching. It's very meaningful to me. So thank you for saying that. Laleen wanted to say something.
I've wondered, Kim, about you for a long time because you stay silent. And I speculated in my mind that it was shyness or, you know, a number of different possibilities. It did not occur to me that you felt so separated or separate from us because of political beliefs. Now, having said that, and wanting to follow up on what Andy just did, and exposing myself and JC. JC has a son who's a Republican, and they haven't been able to talk politics for years, and they still love each other. And I have a son as black as Andy, who's a racist. And, you know, we managed to work through that. I'm sharing that with you because it's really hard when people try to talk to each other, when we throw people into categories of, you know, all Democrats hate, or, you know, all Republicans, I don't know, I don't want to put words into it, but I think what I really want to say to you, I don't know that I've ever used the word hate or hatred around you, but I do not hate Trump. I passionately dislike some of the things that he has done. There are things about his character that I do not respect in terms of how he treats other people. And there are directions that he's taking the country that I don't agree with. But I wouldn't put myself in a category of I want to take away everybody's gun rights. I know lots of Democrats, especially around here, who are strong gun advocates, who love hunting, who, you know, but don't see a need for weapons of mass destruction. So I guess what I'm trying to say to you and to anyone else that I would find feeling as strongly as you do is that I would really love, you know, to have more communication. But I would want us both to work at trying not to use global terms that throw everybody into one place, because then it would be hard for me to hear what you wanted to share with me, and it would be hard for me to respond to you because I'd feel like I needed to defend myself. You know, and I don't hate Trump, you know, and I wouldn't want to do that. So I hope the next time that you and I are together, and there are these times when I see you and you sit quietly and we don't talk, but I would hope that you would approach me and that we could begin some kind of dialogue.
Anyway, I mostly am shy. I don't like going in crowds and talking, but part of it is because, you know, I don't want to offend people by saying, oh, I like Trump, what he's doing, and then you're like, oh, she likes that guy. But yeah, I don't have a problem talking about it. And I think we're talking about it.
Yeah, well, you know, if anything.
Oh, one other thing.
Oh, yes.
Just one other thing before I forget. I really like the music.
Yeah.
I really like the piano playing.
Yeah.
Just so we know.
Yeah.
I don't play the piano.
Kim, you're a great reminder to all of us that we tend to think that we all think alike in certain ways, and there may be quiet people among us who have a very different mind, and we all need to be sensitive and respectful of that. So you really do a good service by speaking up this way.
Yeah, I mean, look how energized the conversation got after that. You know, that was powerful. Well, you know, I wonder if we could end on a note of unity, and a note of happiness, maybe. You know, that could have gotten very contentious, but look, all of you took a look at. We all took a look at ourselves. We all, you know. Nobody yelled, nobody shouted. I mean, to me, that's an absolutely beautiful example of how welcoming this congregation can be. And so I'm very heartened by that. We've reached our hour. I don't know if anybody has anything that's pressing on their minds. Without seeing hands go up. Okay. Bonnie and Andy, would you mind sending us off with a closing thought?
Well, I think it really is a wonderful thing that we didn't get off on looking at differences when Kim spoke her mind. Mm-hmm. And we remember that to put ourselves in each other's shoes. And I'm impressed by the thoughtful conversation that people have today. I've enjoyed it.
Yeah. I just like to say that our differences gives us strength because can you imagine if that there's a story I think Bonnie tells it sometimes, is that you got this orchestra and everybody's playing a violin, and everybody's going, but it's supposed to be an orchestra. That would be a weird sounding orchestra if you had 100-piece orchestra and everybody's playing a violin. So what makes up the orchestra is you've got the French horns, you've got the tuba, you've got violas, you've got everything that in its different colors and in its own separate, it's not a box, but in its own tonality, I guess, in a way, is that. And so when you put all those rainbows and colors together, it makes the orchestra. Life is the same way, and we are the same way. Is that all of these different, these different ideas and how they flow and ebb back and forth, we're like an orchestra. And so when we, take the judgment out, then we become stronger. We become that, the viola, we become the tuba, we become the trombone, we become the trumpet, we become all these different things. And so that's how we grow. And that's how, at the end of the day, I think I said it here a while back, that's how we leave the wood pile higher when we leave than it was when we got here.
Use the word.
Which is what we want to do.
Andy, would you say that the orchestra is all producing different vibrations?
Yes.
And probably combined together a higher vibration than any one individual, right?
Well, that's what the overtime
That's the
call.
point.
And that's the mixer, we put it all into the mixer and it comes out a beautiful orchestra.
We're stronger together than we are separate.
Well, Reverends Bonnie and Andy, thank you so much for giving us your time today, and I feel very enlightened from that. So I hope you all have a beautiful Sunday, and we will see you next time.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Betsy.